Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy daily start on this technical Tuesday, this difficult Tuesday, this fucking Taco Tuesday as well, which I'll actually be having none of because I only eat meat and fruit. Anyways, other than that, besides my culinary preferences, we're going to be looking at a differential between the higher term timeframes and the lower term timeframes. I also want to follow up on yesterday's kind of short term timeframe analysis and what to expect within this next week based off the probabilities, and then how that kind of bleeds into the greater picture, because this video is going to be a little bit more on the difficult side because things are so different between the different pictures going on right now. Anyways, other than that, of course, Bybit still has their promotion going on. You can get 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders, and you can also get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. Also, I'm getting a lot of questions because Bybit is going full KYC soon, which, you know, was inevitable. I mean, regulators are cracking down, and it's really just the realities of a maturing and growing market as well as it legitimizes itself. You know, this was inevitable, basically, or at least in my opinion. But for the people looking for a potential alternative, Bybit does have a decentralized exchange arm called Apex, which I will have a link to in the description below. I think that a link awards you some sort of fees off or whatever the hell. I'll have to double check with my guy, but of course make sure you know it's available for you and everything's all well and good. All right, sweet. Now that we've gotten through that, let's just start off right over here. And first and foremost, I kind of want to start off this analysis by once again calling back to yesterday's analysis where we were looking at a 12-hour time frame setup on the Jewel Light or the regular Jewel. I mean, they're both going to operate in the same capacity in this particular one, which was suggesting that over the next week, or sorry, sometime around the end of this week, Bitcoin's more likely to bounce before breaking below about 26,600 or 26,700, I believe it was, on a closing basis. Now, the 6-hour time frame is also going to be playing hand in hand with that. I actually missed this one yesterday because I was focusing on the 12-hour, but in this case, we'll actually go over it right here, right now. And you can see that the 6-hour time frame has obviously been closing below the bottom side of the blue range lows here on the HPDR indicator. That started happening, obviously, actually beginning last Thursday and coming all the way into Saturday, Sunday, basically. Now, throughout that time, volatility was rising throughout the majority of that move to the downside, but did start to cool off actually on Sunday. So similar to what we did see on yesterday's setup as well. That sort of one becoming, you know, more and more relevant, let's say. Anyways, of course, volatility started to actually contract on the moving average starting right here. And so if we actually go ahead and put on the old back testing script, we can see very, very easily and very, very clearly that there's a nice entry. Damn it. There we go. There's a nice entry right here. And that does have a few things does set a few things in motion. So again, this one's going to probably play hand in hand with the 12-hour time frame setup. And the real question of me right now is, does Bitcoin first come down to maybe like mid $26,000 and then try for a bounce, or does it try for a bounce right here? In this particular case, there's not a direct answer for that, similar to the 12-hour time frame. What we can, however, go over is the areas of interest and then also the timing of that, more importantly. So I'm gonna put the strategy backtester back on, and out of 84 tested iterations, 71.5% almost did have a hit rate of basically playing out a nice upside bounce in this case. I believe the average winning trade was... no, that's the largest. Yeah, the average was just under 6%, so kind of similar to yesterday's one as well. So going back into it right here, what would 6% look like? Damn, I keep on just pressing the wrong damn button. There we go. But yeah, from that setup given, or let's see, yeah, 6% would put Bitcoin actually just below 29,000 bucks from that particular area. Very obvious invalidation point on a closing basis below about 26,500 in this case. Also kind of around the bottom side of the current blue range lows right here. So ultimately, that is going to play hand in hand with the 12-hour time frame and does suggest maybe within this next few day period that Bitcoin's more likely to try for a bounce. Again, does not say anything about whether Bitcoin will first take a small step back down towards 26.5 or 26.6 for that matter. Just don't want to see any closures below there. That's where these sort of things get invalidated alongside the 12-hour time frame as well. And at that point, very likely looking somewhere down around 25,000 bucks ultimately before the next sort of attempt for a bounce. And personally speaking, I don't think that things would stop there. I think that things would eventually go lower, somewhere closer to 21 to 20,000 bucks. Anyways, in this case, where exactly was I? Yes, I forgot to talk about the timing of this. If we go back into the strategy tester, we can see the average amount of bars for these trades took about 16 bars. So 16 bars is what, 4 days? So that would put us around the end of this week, actually. Thursday-ish, let's say. And I believe yesterday's setup was what was within about the end of the week as well. So sometime around there, if this is going to play out, we do expect that to get going relatively soon in this next 2 to 3 day period, basically. So what does that also mean? That also means that if you basically see Bitcoin just not breaking below mid $26,000 in the next couple of days, a lot more likely to play out that next move to the upside than not. But again, all bounces, as far as I'm concerned, are just that, bounces, as long as Bitcoin's below about 29,200 on a daily closing basis. Above there, it's time to start to talk about Bitcoin retesting the current highs at 31. I think that would be quite obvious, but very likely making new highs on this rally, somewhere between about 32 to 34,000 bucks before the next sort of major stopping point. Anyways, so now that we've gotten through that, I do want to juxtapose this against the higher term time frame. Look, the 2-day time frame over here still hasn't gone away. Still hasn't gone away at all, even though we called it out. I guess this was 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, we put it on the radar, and it's been maturing ever since. But basically, it is another one of those volatility versus stochastic momentum setups over here. So, that's why I do say on the lower term timeframes, Bitcoin very well might bounce from this region and have a pretty sizable bounce. But if it fails to get back above 29,200 on a daily closing basis, or even a 12-hour closing basis for that matter, pressure is still down, actually. Now, in this case, we can see that volatility obviously got towards these extreme lows over here and is expanding from them in a rather rapid fashion. Anyways, that particular setup combined with the direction of the stochastic oscillator has had a high correlation in getting the next major move, typically a move on average somewhere around 30 to 35%, depending upon whether it's a long or short setup. In this case, obviously a short setup. And in the direction of the stochastic oscillator has been correct in getting the direction about 84% of the time in the case of downside moves. So obviously, the 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator is still very heavily positioned to the downside, but we are starting to see this, or at least I'm starting to see this one as maybe a bit of a reset here, simply because we've seen, or you can see, this trend line governing the lows coming in from September of 2022. So quite some time ago, connected with the lows of November, like the current lows of this cycle, basically, connected with the January lows, the more recent March lows, and potentially, some lows somewhere within this $27,000 region. Is going to be coming into collision probably in the next closure or two, which is not tonight, but will be tomorrow night. Anyways, downside pressure will remain, of course, as long as Bitcoin's below 30,450. So it's not turning up anytime soon. But just like we watched on the daily, the more time that Bitcoin essentially trades sideways here, while this continues to go down, there will be a natural reset. So again, 26,500 in my opinion, or 26.6 if you want to be super exact, is very, 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 very important. Meaning that if Bitcoin starts to close below there, we're very likely looking at a much more major move to the downside. In this case, we could reference the average return from these backtested iterations, of which there are 19. And the average return was 25 to 26%, with the top side of the first standard deviation at around 34%. So going back into it over here, what would that look like if Bitcoin were to take that next leg lower? 25% puts you, or was it 25%? Yeah, it was 25%. Puts you at around 23,000 bucks, and obviously, the top end of that, around 30%, will put Bitcoin, not you. I mean, you're just a person. You're just probably sitting in your computer seat, eating potato chips and shit like that. Or maybe not, or maybe not. It's or you could also be this person, or also maybe not. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But yeah, close to 30% puts Bitcoin somewhere down around about 21,000 bucks, which I do think is kind of worst case scenario from here. But it all really hinges upon that 26.6, 26.5 region. Until then, short term, more likely to bounce. Question is, does bounce get above 29,200 above there? I think I think it's a bear trap, and Bitcoin's very likely going to make new highs on this rally from there. But until that happens, this is still a consideration here. There really is a legitimate threat of downside moves. In fact, to take it one step further, if we go over here and look at SPY futures or NAS futures for that matter, SPY futures, which is obviously heavily correlated with Bitcoin, or Bitcoin heavily correlated with SPY, it's probably the better way of putting that. Bearish divergence, rejection from the bullish control zone. Next move very likely to the downside. Daily Jewel is very obviously downside signature right there. Short term very likely comes back down to 4130, but does it extend all the way down to like 4080? If that happens, you're going to see Bitcoin at that 26.5 region, and well, that's kind of the big one. And for right now, it does look like it's poised for a pullback here. So another thing kind of in the bears corner on the higher term timeframes. Anyways, now checking out stochastic momentum on all timeframes, starting with the daily, we can see that the daily really has gone for a pretty major reset right here. This is kind of what I was referencing on the 2-day time frame. This has come all the way down since basically middle of April. In price action, it has come down here, yes, but this hasn't been like a catastrophic correction just yet, or at least I'd be looking at this correction first and foremost rather than like a catastrophic reversal just yet. And of course, the new daily pivot is 27,800. So that is to say, if we start to see the 6-hour time frame play out alongside even the 12-hour as well, obviously, because they will play hand in hand, that would very likely propel Bitcoin above at least this pivot, 27,800. So what would that mean? If those start to play out, naturally the daily will catch on to that as well, and there goes your probabilities of a major bear trap in motion here. So if it happens, probably gonna happen pretty damn fast within the next 2 to 3 days, I'd say, basically between now and Friday. 12-hour time frame is obviously already turning up from very, very low levels, from the critical levels over here. Will be remaining with upside caution above 27.5, which actually Bitcoin's below right now. So, could have another flip-flop to the downside in the short term. 6-hour time frame also pivoted at 27,200. Again, bit of a corrective move right there. 4-hour time frame, same shit, although 27,400 right there as well. So we're seeing this pivot pop up multiple times here. And then the hourly is, what do you fucking know? If you guess 27,400, you're exactly right. So a lot of things kind of coming in at that pivot. Essentially, in the very, very short term here, as long as Bitcoin's above there, short term, Bitcoin likely does try for a bounce from this region rather than the lower block of this territory at about 26.6, 26.5 region. Again, if it does fail below here, I probably would be looking somewhere down around there before the bounce attempt. And then the real question is, does the bounce reclaim any sort of, reasonably important region, namely the 29,200-ish region? If it doesn't, well, time for bear G's to take over for a while. Anyways, I suspect that we'll probably start to get more clarity on that situation by the end of this week. And this is a big preparation for things to come. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. As always, want to be wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.